It's so good. It's so good, I might have to start my own business.
idcwoodcraft.com.
Hey CNC peeps, Liberty here with another deep dive into some of IDC Woodcraft's V-bit collection, and today's focus, the wide body collection. We already took a deep look at what the 150 degree can do, and now we're bringing in the 60, 90, and 120 degree to create the perfect image. Now this is normally the point where I would show you what project we're doing, but I think we're gonna keep the mystery going. For this design, much like with the little V-bits, I spent quite a bit of time making sure each piece of the design featured each bit as best as I could, the angles it can achieve, depth, etc. The 90 and the 60 you can find in our 1/8 and our standard body 1/4 inch bits. The 90 and the 60 you can find in our... You would think after 4 years and over, I want to say 100,000 packages, I would know the difference when I go to film a video. But here we are. Let's make a game of it. Take a drink every time I get it wrong. And let's hope you still learn something from this video. For reference, if you don't know how angles work, this is 60. And this is 90. Let's get to the video. Count how many times I get it wrong and put your answers in the comments below. The 120 on the other hand is, of course, wide-bodied, and I think in the 1/8 inch that would look quite squatty. For today's project, I've grabbed another one of these glue-together circles, and I've worked with these a few different times. You may have seen our Star Wars project for May the 4th be with you a few years ago, or the Pokemon circle. Today, I'm gonna be making a full sign out of it, and I never quite know how to approach finding the center, or if I should use, you know, a square on the outside or grid lines or what have you. So Dr. Google says to create a square and the corner of the 2 points meeting together with a diagonal line should find us our happy middle. If you have any other easier ways of going about this, please let me know. Your girl's desperate, and we all know that symmetry is not my friend. Okay, scooch these guys. Don't cut myself. Middle of the line. But I decided to brave off of a center X and Y this time. Looks right. Let's hope it's right. Yeah, I do believe we are there. 0, X, and Y. Let's grab our handy dandy paper. There's 0, set. New thing to be nervous about, zeroing off the center. Now we're gonna run the 90 first, but we're not gonna say too much about it until we run the 60. So we have that, again, direct side-by-side comparison on the differences between their strengths and results. Wide body 90 degree, here we go. So why the big V's, you may ask? I've got the standard 1/4 inch, I can V-carve things, I can hog out things with a flat depth. Why do I need the big ones? Well, this may be a small big sign, but this is a big sign. When you're in something like the sign making business or just large details, you're looking to speed up your time, speed up your efficiency, and get the most out of your tools. I think later on in the design I might widen up this line, but I liked the idea of having these framing circles. When you're using something like a standard 1/4 inch V-bit on a large sign, big bold lettering, it's taking longer, it's putting more work on the bit itself, and by taking twice as long, is using up the bit twice as fast. When you take something like the wide bodies, they're achieving that big, bold detail much faster with much less stress on the bit or the machine. In a single pass or 2 passes, that's all the stress that's being put on the tool and the blade itself, giving you more lifespan out of it. And not just lifespan, but then time in your shop, time on your machine, and the bigger, bolder details done by what it's meant to be done by. Take, for example, the Badger versus the Beast, 2 specialty hogging bits that IDC Woodcraft carries. The Badger gives you the ability to hog out material in a much smaller space, achieving the same goal, getting out a bunch of material quickly in order to create a larger space for your design, whether it's a box or a deep V carve or whatever it may be. Same with the Beast, but for larger areas. You're not going to want to use the 1/8 inch on a 4 inch by 4 inch box that you're trying to make. You're going to use the Beast. You're going to get that material out faster, get your larger details in, and then obviously there's a lot more finish up with that, but the example is still there. You're getting your bigger details faster and more efficiently. So to explain a little bit about this next carve, to show you a little bit better what we're talking about in the Vectric software here, I've got that circle that we were looking at. And you can see this node right here is blue. If you don't know how to hop into the node mode, you can click N on your keyboard or underneath Edit Objects, the second option here, Nodes. Moving on. This is blue. That means it is a Bezier curve. I don't actually know like the definition of the Bezier curve. I just know it's the smoothest line that you're going to achieve within the nodes within Vectrix. So it's blue, it's highlighted, it has these arms here. You can use them to adjust the angle. You can pull them in and it pulls the circle in. You can pull them down and it pulls that one up because it's unchanged. You can grab multiples and move them together as a unit. But when you don't have those Bezier curves within your circular objects, this is what it's going to look like. Selecting the outside of the mushroom line here, all of these nodes, first of all, are black. That means they are a solid node. Second of all, the more nodes that you have within your project, the longer it's going to take. And again, with a solid node, it's going to be rougher. If we were to turn these into Bezier curves, it would have a more smooth, fluid finish instead of a point at every node. To show you how to fix this, there's a couple of different ways. It can be kind of tedious depending upon what you need and how you're going about it, but let's get into it. One of the tools we have here underneath Edit Objects is the Curve Fit tools. Fit curves to selected vectors. Here we can select the type of fitting we want. Straight lines, so if it came in curvy and you need it more boxy, you can actually curve fit it to straight lines. Bezier curves and circular arcs. I don't often use the circular arcs unless it's something very just archy. Your Bezier curves are going to be your best bet with something curvy. The circular arc still uses straight nodes, but with arms. The next option you have is the tolerance, whether to keep the sharp corners or not. In this case, I want to because of points like that. I want to see how the sharp corners will go, but it may not work out because of the nodes being so solid. So we're looking at our max angle here, 60 I'm just gonna preview it, see what happens. That's kind of how it goes, especially since everything turns out a little bit differently within the curve to fit. Preview. And that actually looks pretty good. The only thing I don't like, yep, and I knew that spot would turn out a little boxy, but again, that interior is a little boxy because we haven't selected both lines yet. So I'm gonna go ahead and okay that, and we're gonna take a look at the nodes themselves. Because it had a sharp corner here, it kept a solid node. It noticed the curve here, so it added a Bezier curve. And here's those arms. This is what I was talking about with the circular arcs. I find a lot more of these get thrown in with the circular arcs. I'm not great, I don't know what it's called when a straight node, you pull the arms out, but. So again, taking a look at this, it's got a Bezier over here. It noticed the curve, it's got the arms, they're actually a little farther extended out. Maybe it had a deeper angle over here. I don't know. But that looks honestly pretty good. And you could either leave it at that, or you could go in and like, I think it looks so good that I don't want to undo it. But first thing we're gonna try before we go in and individually change everything is we're going to Control Z back to the original nodes, and we're going to up to 180 on the sharp corners. I just want to see, does it make it worse? Does it make it better? And then we're going to okay that and go into node mode, and we're going to look at actually the same one, and it makes it worse. It kept more sharp corners in that. So that's another thing. You can play around a lot to achieve what you want. Once again, looking at those nodes, and see, it didn't catch enough. So that 60 degrees was that happy medium. That tool, while it's a little bit of playing, is your quickest fix towards Bezier curves. Second option, going right in here. In the node mode, we're going to take this circle that's next to that one, for example, and we're going to right click and smooth point. And you can actually, I think, go in and you can go in and group. Nope, it's not going to let me group smooth because again, there's too many nodes in here. There's too much going on. So honestly, if I were individually editing this, the first thing I'd do is I'd go through and delete a bunch of nodes, especially the sharpest ones, and then back through and smooth the ones that are in between back to that curvature. And again, the less nodes that your machine is reading, the smoother it's going to be, the less stop points, the less adjustments. So overall, it's going to result in a cleaner carve. With that, I'm too far into this project to edit all of these notes, so we're going to see how the rest of it turns out. Now that we've got the 60 and 90 side by side, let's take a look. With this outer edge here, this 90 degree would have been achievable with the 1/8 or the standard body 1/4 inch V-bit 90 degree. However, this outer edge here, this 60 degree, that outer edge might not have been possible, let alone possible in a single pass with your standard body V-bit or your 1/8 inch V-bit. Couple of differences you can see here. I obviously made this design a little bit thinner, but still very wide for the large project size. Comparative to the 60 degree here, even the outline was a very similar size to this, so you kind of get a result side by side of that. This may not, in the end, have been the best design for this sign, carve, or bit. But again, it's all about learning, testing things out, and seeing what the results will be at the end of the creativity. For the 60-degree side of this design, I did a few things here. I added a flat depth here because had I let it go to the full depth of the design with this 60-degree, it would have gone through the material. But as you can see here with these other details, nowhere else did it reach that flat depth. So to explain what's going on here, so we can see here where that flat depth sits on that 60-degree. We saw that it didn't go in every point, just the singular one. But had we not added that flat depth in, let's see what that would have done. It's going to give us a warning that it is going past the material thickness. It will cut through. We're going to preview selected, and look at that. It is just a little dot, but it does cut all the way through our project material. That's where adding that flat depth keeps that from happening and keeps all of the structural integrity of the project. The other thing I will say is you never quite know exactly how something is going to come out. I noticed I didn't pay quite enough attention to my nodes in this design once I got to the final tool pathing, and I can see that. Let me show you. Take this piece in the mushroom cap, for example. I smoothed out these edges to Bezier curves. So there's going to be just a slight line on the center there where it ends up meeting in the middle, but otherwise you've got a nice smooth edge here, and as you saw, it went up and did micro movements to get a clean round there. Then look over here where I didn't smooth out this edge into a Bezier curve, and you can see a lot more tick marks all along the curve, and each one of those is a solid flat node. On to the last carve. We are going to do a little bit of design with this using the 120-degree wide body V-bit, but this is one of the unique ones in this series, as like I said, we do not have it in the standard body 1/4 inch or the 1/8 inch. So this one is great for wide body signs, forming, large filigree, and much more. We're going to be using it on a little bit of design so we can see how it comes out, and of course text, which if it hasn't given it away yet, I'm doing a bit of a logo. Let's carve it. There we have it. Liberty, me, the creator, also me. Now this is not my final logo, but I wanted another little something to add to my shelf. We are moving soon, so I need to change up the background a bit. And I wanted to connect back to each test we did. So the mushrooms, I've done previous V-bit and 3D carves with mushrooms, so it seemed like a natural, easy thing to add in there to add some depth and show off the 60-degree V-bit. These filigree little fern leaves, if you may recognize them, are pieces that we used in our testing video. If you haven't checked that out yet, it'll be right here or linked in the description below. And then of course, a moon and some stars to show the contrast between the moon and stars we did with the 1/8 inch V-bits and the wide-bodied 120-degree V-bit. As well as we've got our nice sign right through here, and as you can see, it did a great job going through getting some bold lettering in. If you want to see how I finish up this project, Subscribe to see it in the background of my next video. If you have a design that you've used the 120-degree V-bit on before, or that you would like to, comment down below. Let's all give each other some inspiration. And don't forget to like this video if it was entertaining or helpful in any sort of way. I'm Liberty, and I'll see you next time on IDC Woodcraft. Learn more now. Go to woodcraftresources.com.